Did I mention that I'm officially tired of winter? I'm sure I did in a recent video, but then we had this little blizzard thing, and so, yeah, where I live, at the airport, I don't live at the airport, but where I live, the airport where I live, got 37.9 inches of snow in a 24-hour period. That's 96 centimeters. City of Providence, which is rather nearby, got 36 inches of snow, which is 91 centimeters. And my driveway has 30 inches of snow, which is 76 centimeters. And yeah, I'm not going anywhere for a couple of days yet. They just lifted the travel ban, and yeah, did I mention I'm officially tired of winter? So join me with a tasty beverage of your choice close to hand while we take a look at 7 new plants. Yeah, they just lifted the travel ban and the plow just went down the street, but I've got another 20 feet or so of shoveling 30-inch deep snow before I get near the street with a car. So yeah, guess what I'm going to be doing? Anyway, we've got a couple things in bloom this week, and the first up is my Ludisia discolor, and it's a gorgeous plant. See if I can tip this without pouring water everywhere. Beautiful leaves, but the blossoms, it's a jewel orchid, so they're miniature, tiny little orchid blooms. And I'm going to put some close-up pictures over here. But yeah, this is the time of year when discolor has usually bloomed for me. And I think they're really simple and pretty. And yeah, so once this is done blooming, I'm going to move it into a larger, shallow dish because they like a shallow pot, and see if we can't fill it out a little bit. But yeah, I'm really pleased with how this one is doing. So yeah, that's Ludisia discolor. And the other one that's blooming right now is my Hoya lacunosa Durian Perangin. And yeah, there's some blooms right there that are looking pretty good. This is another one of my fave lacunosas. I love the smaller leaves. And this one's been a really good grower. It's now, what is that, like almost 2 feet, which is like 60 centimeters. Is that right? Yeah, something like that. So it's doing pretty well. I have cut it back several times. It's a steady grower, a steady bloomer, and yeah, if you're looking for a nice little leafed lacunosa, Durian Perangin might be the one for you. So yeah. This is lacunosa. And of course, there's been, by now, close-up pictures over here. This is lacunosa, Hoya lacunosa, Durian Perangin. And I got a comment from someone recently asking about rooting in ponds, since I guess I had mentioned it, and they were asking how to do that. So I thought I can show you that. That's nothing to do. So I have my container of pon, and this has all been rinsed, and it's a mixture of pon and pumice. Do not rinse your pon directly in the sink or the tub or the shower. Don't rinse your pumice directly in the sink or the tub or the shower. All that dust is going to go down there, and it's going to sit like a rock, and at some point someone's going to have to call a plumber, and no one's going to be happy, except maybe the plumber. I use a bucket, and in the wintertime, and I rinse my pond through a sieve and let the water flow out into that bucket, and then I take the bucket outside and dump it there. In the summertime, I just rinse it in the backyard with a hose, but don't rinse your inorganic mixes in the sink. You'll not be happy. So what I thought I was going to do is to take my Hoya Medusa that I was not terribly happy with, and since I saw Not Dude's Medusa on his Instagram channel, and it was looking far better than this, I thought, I'm gonna take a cutting of this and see if I can root it up and get the cutting to do better. So I'm gonna take a cutting of my Medusa. Now what you'll need to root in pon is the pon, and the technique I use is one you can use. And there's a couple of them, a couple variations on it. You can start with 2 little cups. These are, I believe, 3 ounces. I don't know what that is in liters or whatever. But so you need one that you leave solid, and you need holes in the other one. And the easiest way to do that is to take a good pair of decent heavy scissors and just cut off the bottom edge in 2 spots. So you just have a couple slots there, okay? Easy enough. Put a little bit of pon in the bottom. The other way is to use a net pot. And this is I think this is a 3-inch net pot. And you just do the same thing. Put a little pon in the bottom. Easy, right? Nothing to it. Then you're going to need to take your cutting, or take your cutting earlier so it has a chance to skin over. But I'm going to do this one right here and take a nice healthy cutting. And now when you take a cutting, always use sharp scissors, shears, whichever. They don't have to be this brand or this style, they just need to be sharp. A sharp cut heals faster and does less damage to the stem. So that's just give yourself the best chance you can. Either way, whichever method you use, you're going to create a little passive semi-hydro setup. So you can take the cup that you cut slots in, put the cutting in, fill it in with pon, and put it inside another cup, which will act as your inner pot and your outer pot. Or you can use some kind of little container. I have these yogurt cups that a friend saves for me, and drop it in there. Or you can do the same with your net pot. The one I typically tend to use is the hole with the pot with the slots and the yogurt cup. So get a good scoop of your pon mixture, whatever it is, and just fill it in, tap it in. I kind of like the pon. Well, I tend to grow most of my Hoyas in ponds, and I'm a firm believer in root them in what you're going to grow them in. It just seems to make the transition easier. It also seems to hold the cutting still. So I'm going to do that and get my bottle of nutrient solution and just give it a watering in till it touches the bottom of that inner cup. Okay? Nothing to it. Now these I usually tend to leave out. Matter of fact, it's probably going to sit here on my desktop with all my other cuttings. And in a couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks, as soon as I see roots, we're going to pot this one up and see what it goes. So I'm going to put a tag in that later, because I try and tag everything, because 3 weeks later I could look at that and not remember what I'd done. You know how it goes. Anyway, that's how I root stuff in pon. And the first of the new plants up today is a Hoya, and this is Hoya kaikoana. Now, kaikoana is native to Kalimantan on the island of Borneo in Indonesia, from specifically West Kalimantan and Sanggau. And it was first published in 2022 by Sri Rahayu and Michaela Rhoda. And the note from Kew, from their database, says that the species is named after Kaiko, the daughter of Ewaldus, who was a plant collector from Sanggau in West Kalimantan, who found this new species about the same time that his wife was giving birth to his daughter Kaiko. And I saw this on Miro's channel, and so I ordered one, and it was one of those, where I was getting the exact plant I ordered, and it was very pretty. It had a couple nice leaves on it. But right after I ordered it, the weather changed, and it got very cold. So this shipped during a very cold part of the year. And I thought, anyway, 2 days after it arrived, both of the leaves fell off. But I looked and I thought I could see green. So my feeling was kind of, If there's green, there's hope. And it had a decent root structure, and the roots still look good. So I gave it a little drink. This was the pot it came in and the medium it came in, so I wasn't going to do anything dramatic there. Gave it a little drink and set it in a Ziploc bag with the, I inflated the Ziploc bag, so it's that thing you do. I just saw Fern do this, and I was going to say, Fern, if you're watching, like you watch my channel, try using the straw. Try using the straw rather than blowing in the bag. It seems to work better for me. Just a little FYI. So I've been keeping it in this kind of a setup, a little mini greenhouse where it's very humid. And I'm just going to see what happens. There's still shades of green, no new leaves or anything else going on. So I might have to order this again because I did want to try this one. And we'll see what happens. I have found like 3 different spellings for the name of this plant, but I'm going to go with the one you've seen down here. Here is the one that I found through Q's database, so that's what I'm going with. But this one, fingers crossed, is Hoya kaikoana. And the next new plant is another Hoya, and this is Hoya mappigera. Now, mappigera is native to Brunei, to Kalimantan in Indonesia, to Malaya, Sabah, and Sarawak in Malaysia, and to Thailand. And it was first collected in 1894 in Manjung State, Malaya. It was published in 2012 in Fedes Repertorium, Zeitschrift für botanische Taxonomie und Geobotanik. Dutch G always gets me. Feds Repertory, Journal of Botanical Taxonomy and Geobotany by Michaela Rhoda and Nathaniel Simonson. And I should have a picture of what this one looked like when it showed up. And it kind of traveled at the same time as the kaikoana, but this one did better in several ways. It showed up with a peduncle, and I was absolutely thrilled that the peduncles survived the shipment. And then about a week or 2 later, it put out a bloom, a bud, on the end of its peduncle here, right there. And I was thrilled. It was like, holy, we got through all that stuff and it's going to bloom. And so I was keeping an eye on it and trying to make sure it was evenly hydrated and everything else. And then I came in to check one morning and the bloom was laying on the leaf. So, but it has since put out some new growth there, which is very cool. The peduncle has stayed, and I think the leaves are really pretty. So it is, in appearance, it's a thin-leafed Hoya, but the leaves are fairly firm. There's a slightly recessed central rib, but you can't really see the side veins, and there's little bits of splash on the leaves. So it's very cool. I'm happy with this one. I think this is going to be another one of those cascading plants, not a trailing plant so much as a cascading plant, like several of the others I've got around here. So yeah, I'm hopeful for that. The new growth has me very excited. So yeah, this has been really cool. I may even have a picture of what it looked like with the bud on it, but that doesn't do us any good now because we ain't gonna see the blossom. So yeah, this one came from Hook and Crochet Studio on Etsy, and this is my Hoya mappigera. And as you remember, a few weeks or months ago, I talked about my Aspidistra elatior, And I have both a plain green variety and a variegated one called Domino. And I said I was going to find what's just known as the variegated one, and I did. And I'm very happy with it. It came as 5 very healthy rhizomes and plant. And I thought, I'm going to try something different with this one. I'm going to try growing it in pumice. So it's in a self-watering pot in pumice, and it looks like, no, that shouldn't be roots already. No, I think it's just some threads from the wick. But it's in a self-watering pot and pumice, pure pumice. And since Aspidistra can handle slightly lower light, that's what I'm doing with it. Now, Aspidistra is native to Japan and was first published in 1834 in Zeitschrift voor Natuurlijke Geschiedenis aan Physiologie. I'm sorry to my Dutch-speaking audience. I'm trying. Anyway, and it was published by Carl Ludwig von Blume. And I'm really happy with this. It seems to be doing pretty well. I think the leaves are beautiful, and I think a full pot of that will be just beautiful. This came as unrooted. Well, no, they were rooted, but they were bare root rhizomes. So they grow with like long roots, and things shoot up from the long roots. And you can look up rhizomes for a much more scientific explanation. It has done pretty well so far. It seemed to survive its travels quite well, and I'm very happy with this. This is the one I was looking for to kind of balance out my Aspidistra collection. So yeah, this one came from Gem Unique Creations on Etsy, and this is Aspidistra elatior variegated. And now we've got some experiments. When you see a plant on some channel or something, you think, I'd like to try that. Not quite I need one of those, but I want to try that. And the first one I have up is Microsorum thailandicum. And this is commonly known as blue oil fern. And it is a real fern. The leaves are sturdy. Now, Microsorum thailandicum, as one might expect, is native to Thailand, to In Pon, and was first published in 2001 in Blumea, Zeitschrift voor de Systematiek en Geografie der Planten, a journal of plant taxonomy and plant geography, by Tawik Sand. I'm gonna apologize, but I'm gonna keep trying. Tawiskadi Bunkerd and Hans-Peter Notteboom. I first saw this on Kaylee Ellen's channel. She's a big fan of this plant. Hers is rather lush. You have to get it in the right light to see the bluishness in it, and mine's doing okay. It's putting out some new growth. There's some new leaves there. I'm thinking I need to get it into, this is a really peaty, really peat-heavy soil. And I think I need to get it into something a little bit lighter. Like, I think this is, mostly peat with some perlite dust in it. So I think what I'm going to try is putting it in a self-watering pot, putting it in an airier mix. I'll probably use some cocoa peat and some small pumice and maybe some fine bark, and put it in a self-watering pot and see if it likes that. I love ferns. I think they're absolutely beautiful. I have absolutely no luck with them because, some of them, if you're late on the watering it, they're just like, literally toast when you see them. So this one seems a little sturdier. Right now I've got it in this mix, so it's going to get out. That's the mix it came in. It's going to get out of that. It's growing in my west-facing window, but it's behind other stuff. So it gets a little bit of direct sunshine, but not very much at all. So yeah, I'm still learning about this one, but it looks interesting, and I think the leaves are kind of cool. And if it's a fern that can survive my gentle care, then yay. So yeah, I'll keep you posted on this one, but I think it's kind of cool. Fingers crossed for me. This one came from NY City Succulents on Etsy, and this is Microsorum thailandicum. And I'm going to preface this next one by saying that Philodendron and I do not always get along, like rarely. And I have a couple like that. I'm the guy that can't grow a Monstera deliciosa. So anyway, my go-to aroid person is Kaylee Ellen. Hi, Kaylee Ellen, if you're watching. Yeah, like you watch my channel. And I noticed as I was watching some of her videos that she was growing them in pon and self-watering pots. And I thought, maybe part of my problem has been that my watering has not been consistent enough and that there were root problems going on that I just didn't know about. So I decided I was going to try a few experiments, and one of them is with this. And this is my Philodendron gloriosum. Now, it doesn't look great right now, and this big, beautiful leaf got a little damaged in the shipping, but I'm happy with it. Now, Philodendron gloriosum is native to Colombia. It was first published in 1876 in L'Illustration horticole by Edouard François André. And since this one arrived, it has started pushing out this new leaf. So it's a bit smaller than this one at present, but that's okay. This is the leaf that came out after it arrived, so we're good with this. I can't remember if this is a crawling or a climbing philodendron, so we'll find that out. But so far, it's made its transition to pumice, and I've got it growing in pure pumice, not pon, fairly well. A couple of little leaves died off, but that's okay. It got shipped in January. So I'll give it some leeway. But it is pushing out this new leaf. Now, the leaves are supposed to be beautiful and supposed to get large. So we'll see what happens. Right now, I have this one. It's in my living room. It's about 2 feet or 60 centimeters pulled back from a west-facing window. So it gets a little bit of direct sunshine, but a very little bit. Other than that, it gets nice bright light. And so far, it's doing okay. It wouldn't surprise me if it lost these 2 leaves. I'm fine with that. It's looking healthy. It's pushing out that new leaf. And yeah, I'm okay with this. I cleaned off the roots really well, rinsed them off, got off almost, I'm going to say 95% of the organic mix that it came in, settled it into pure pumice. I chose pumice because it's very lightweight, but does hold a certain amount of moisture. And yeah, we're going to see what happens. It would be nice. I don't have a cabinet or a grow tent, so I can't give it the high humidity it probably would prefer, but this is grown in the living room, so I've got a humidifier going in there in addition to the one going in here. So yeah, so we're going to see how this does. As I said, I haven't had the best of luck with philodendron, but I keep trying. We'll see. I'm assuming that the problem I'm assuming that the problem was me. I always start with that assumption. Um, but we'll keep you posted. I'm happy with this. New leaf, good sign. This is Philodendron gloriosum, and this came from NY City Succulents on Etsy. And next up is my Alocasia baginda silver dragon. Now, Alocasia baginda is native to Brunei, to Kalimantan in Indonesia, and to Sabah and Sarawak in Malaysia, which means the island of Borneo. It was first published in 2011 in Acta Phytotaxonomica et Geobotanica by Agung Kurniawan and Peter Charles Boyce. And I had tried Alocasia before, but it was in my learning curve days and I wasn't doing terribly well with it. And then I discovered the joys of spider mites. So all but one of my Alocasias, and I had 3 or 4 at the time, did not make it. But one of them, my Alocasia mycolitziana Friedeck, survived the spider mites thanks to systemics and has turned into a rather big plant. And I thought, I could do with another one of those. They seem a little bit sturdier than one would expect. So I resolved to try the same experiment with putting it and growing it in pumice. So that's what I have here. The leaves on this are just phenomenal. I mean, that's really, really nice. It's very, very nice. Very handsome. And there is a regular baginda and there's a black velvet baginda and yeah. But I found this one, I went to a local shop and found this one. So it has transitioned, it seems, fairly well from the peaty mix it was in. I cleaned off, again, like 95% of the organic stuff and settled it into this self-watering pot. It gets my nutrient solution, and it's been growing here in the plant room with just a little bit of extra humidity in here, so I think that's been helping. As I said, the leaves are just gorgeous. I think it could make a really pretty plant. This leaf, I think, is probably not going to pump out all the way. This was from shipping. My guess is that it was packed in next to something else. But the other leaves, I mean, wow. Wow. There's a very firm recessed central rib, and the rest of the leaf here is somewhat flexible, but again, don't try bending this. We don't do that. I think they're going to get larger than this if the plant does well. So yeah, I'm very happy about this. This is very cool. And I'm very hopeful about this pumice and self-watering thing for these plants. Again, I saw some of these on Kaylee Ellen's channel and she was growing them in Pon. I thought, me and Pon have worked out fairly well. In Pon and self-watering, I think that's the key, have worked out fairly well. So I'm going to try that with these. So the pumice is nice and airy and light and holds a bit of moisture. I've been top watering a little bit every couple of days to help the roots transition to their new home. So yeah, that's very cool. This is Hoya baginda silver dragon, and this came from Jordan's Jungle in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. And while I was buying that other Alocasia, the baginda silver dragon, there was another group of plants nearby, and I was smitten. And they were Alocasia cuprea. Now, Alocasia cuprea is native to Brunei, to Kalimantan in Indonesia, and to Sabah and Sarawak in Malaysia, which means the island of Borneo. And they were first published in 1864 in Berliner Wochenschrift, or the Berlin Weekly, by Karl Heinrich Emil Koch. And Berliner Wochenschrift was a series of weekly publications that highlighted different topics, and there were different ones on the different topics. So I was standing there trying to decide which one of these absolutely freaky, gorgeous plants to get, and I realized that I'm a fully grown adult and I was going to get both. I don't know if it's going to show up, but there's a copper color to these leaves that is just beautiful. Just beautiful. That's why I couldn't decide. It was that, it was just that beauty. They have a slightly raised central vein and slightly raised side veins, but you'll notice that there's a little bit of dimension, puffiness, abs in between the veins, and the backs on this beautiful mahogany color on these really neat petioles. So I did the same thing. I decided I was going to put it in pumice and self-watering. So I cleaned off most of the organic stuff, and it too has been living here in the plant room. I really love this plant. I think that's so, so pretty. It's doing all right. I don't think the next leaf is going to do well, but we'll see. The cataphyll looks like it will separate, but I think there may be some damage to the next leaf just from shipping and everything else that happens to it. So as usual, I've been top watering this a little bit every couple of days to make sure there's a steady supply of moisture to the roots until it gets well established. And it's growing here in the plant room where there is some extra humidity. But yeah, I mean, really. And of course, there'll be close-ups of the leaves of all of these somewhere, over here at some point. So yeah. Since my wish list for Hoyas is now very, very specific, there may be 8 things on that wish list, but I'm looking for very, very specific things that are not easy to find, at least not always easy to find. And some of them, if I found them, I'm reluctant to ship them this time of year. So yeah, so I thought I'd try playing with some other plants, and hence the Alocasias and the Philodendrons and the Microsorum. So yeah, keep fingers crossed for me on this one. This one is Alocasia cuprea, and this too came from Jordan's Jungle in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. And now the question for the comments. And yes, I'm still running behind on the responses to some of the other questions and things you shared with me from last week and the previous week's video, but now I also have to clear out a driveway. So I've been trying to do 10 or 15 minutes of shoveling and then come back in and work on videos, then 10 or 15 minutes worth of shoveling back and forth, because I am not going to try and clear my driveway in one day. I'm old and I don't need to be doing that. And it takes a really long time to heal once you reach a certain point in your life. Take notes, people who are under 50, your day will come. So this week's question first of all, yeah, thank you to everybody who posted about last week in response to last week's question. That was interesting. It's always interesting to see what y'all have to say. And it kind of shook out the way I thought it was going to, but yeah, it's always interesting. I always appreciate hearing from you guys. Now, the question for the comments this week is, what are you experimenting with? So it can be a new substrate. It can be a new genus of plants. It could be something you're revisiting, or something that maybe revisiting that didn't work out before that you're going to try again because, like if you're like me, hopefully I've learned something in the intervening years. So yeah. So in the comments below, tell me about what you're experimenting with. And as always, I want to thank you for choosing to spend a little bit of your time with me this week's end. Please remember that thumbs up like button, the subscribe button, the hype button, the share button, all that kind of stuff. It convinces YouTube that people like the content I'm producing and so recommend it to other people. Thanks to you all. I just recently passed 4,300 subscribers, so I'm very happy about that. A lot of the products that you've seen me use are available through my Amazon storefront. There's a link in the description below, or you can use this QR code to visit the storefront. I receive a small commission on the sales, and it doesn't increase your price whatsoever, but it's a nice way to help support the channel, buying things you might normally buy anyway. If you're in the market for grow lights, I have a relationship with Sansi Company, and you can use the link that's in the description or this QR code and this discount code to visit the website. If you use that discount code, you'll receive a 30% discount from the prices you find on that site. I've been happy with my Sansi grow lights. I've got some of them right over here, and I've got some in the den. And they've made a big difference to some of my plants this winter when it's a little darker than it normally is. So yeah, I receive a commission on the sales from the Sansi lights, and it's another nice way of helping to support the channel. If you'd like to support the channel directly, there's a link in the description, or here's a QR code to my Buy Me a Coffee page. You can also click on the thanks button down here, and YouTube handles everything for the thanks button. I'm going to post links to a couple more videos that you might enjoy over here on the side, and please enjoy the rest of your week's end.